rights. And I'm very proud before the Judiciary Committee that before he testified, he said to me, Madam Speaker, do you think that I can tell George's daughter that his name will be always remembered because you will name the bill for him? And I said, well, I'll recommend that to the Judiciary Committee and to the Congressional Black Caucus who have shaped the bill. But I only will do that if you tell me that this legislation is worthy of George Kirby's name.
So what you just saw there was Nancy Pelosi forgetting George Floyd's name, specifically in the context of honoring George Floyd's name. She's calling him, I think, George Kirby there, but some people are saying she's calling him George Curry. Certainly, Kirby or Curry doesn't sound like Floyd. And again, it's not just that she mixed up names. That happens from time to time. Even the best of us mix up people's names. But specifically here, she's talking about police reform. The police reform that's been spurred by what happened to George Floyd and other black people, other African Americans over the past few weeks and really over the past few decades and generations, and how there needs to be justice. No reasonable person disagrees with that, and I do think we need police reform, although I would go much, much, much farther than Nancy Pelosi and the corporate Democrats. But here, she's saying that in speaking to George Floyd's brother, that he wants the bill to be named after George, so that his daughter will know that her dad made an impact, that he's being remembered, that he didn't lose his life in absolute vanity, that he didn't lose his life for absolutely nothing. And Nancy Pelosi here says, well, you know, if the bill is worthy, I'm happy to name it after George Kirby or George Curry. That's not good enough. And what that shows me is that this is more than a minor slip up. This exposes the performativeness of Nancy Pelosi. This exposes that she really doesn't care about George Floyd and about the issues surrounding police injustice in the United States and racial injustice in the United States. And this is all an effort to triangulate results, to win more votes. And it's not actually about serving poor, working class, racialized people who are more often than not made safe by the police in their own communities. Simple as that. And so whether it's this, of course, or whether it was wearing the kente cloth, you know, we talked about that a few weeks ago on the channel, Nancy Pelosi and the corporate Democrats won't actually do anything at the fundamental level to bring social, economic, political, and racial justice to the United States. They will, unlike the Republicans, do performative things. They will wear the right clothes. They'll talk about naming legislation after people even though they can't get those people's names right. They'll do that. But they won't actually, when the chips are down, make the changes needed. They won't push to fundamentally defund the police, to shrink the scope of police power, to give more power to the communities themselves rather than the people that surveil them. She won't do that. Corporate Democrats won't do that. They also won't do that at the municipal and state levels either. It has to come from protest and from electing more progressives at the local, state, and national level. That's the only way this is going to happen. Nancy Pelosi here shows us yet again that she's a barrier, that all of this is meant to make people feel better, that to get the window dressing right solves the issue. But of course, a window dressing only serves to hide the problem. It only serves to obscure the reality that's before us. That's what it is. That's what window dressing does. It obscures and it lies. We need to see the truth unvarnished, unhidden, undressed. And what that means is there are fundamental issues rooted in historical inequalities in America based on income, based on class, based on race, based on so many factors. And reform around the edges won't be enough. Nancy Pelosi hopes that you think naming a bill after George Kirby, quote unquote, is enough. She thinks that taking a knee wearing a kente cloth, which is probably cultural appropriation, is enough. But it isn't. And so what the lesson here is not only that Nancy Pelosi is awful, but there's an opportunity to end Nancy Pelosi's political career and replace her with somebody far more principled and far more in tune with what regular working class people of all backgrounds need. And that man is Shahid Buttar. Again, the way it works in California, I've talked about it on this channel, the primaries allow multiple people of the same party to end up on the final ballot. So in Nancy Pelosi's district in California, there is no Republican running. It's either her or progressive Democrat Shahid Buttar, who backs progressive policies supported by people like Bernie Sanders and many others. Medicare for all, Green New Deals, fighting for economic and social and environmental and racial justice. Nancy Pelosi has been in politics for far too long, and she's contributed far too little. You can see in these moments that she's trying to ride the wave that progressives have started, that activists have started, that grassroots African-American Black communities have started. And she doesn't actually care about the people behind it, about the pain behind it, about the history behind it. And Shahid Buttar, I believe he does. And so we can make a difference for once. Get rid of Nancy Pelosi, get rid of her performative progressivism, and elect somebody who's the real deal in November.